for inviting me here. I request all of you to be a little agile. You're sitting as if, you are coming here for some kind of a morning. You just had a wonderful lunch. I think at least you can be active, smiling, and then make us feel that we are going to talk something that is going to make some sense, isn't it? If you sit the way you're sitting for that wonderful presentation, I was feeling really guilty that are we boring you or what are we doing to you? It's good that Professor spoke before me. It's always allow the youngsters to move forward, because when they run faster, we can catch up with them. Whatever he has presented is really wonderful. But I was also recalling, with due respect to him, one of the cartoons of R.K. Lakshman. Now, that gentleman, common man, is standing there, and then the Ministry of Finance is explaining so much about economics and the Indian condition. At the end of the day, he asks, what is this? Because he doesn't understand anything. It's not a reflection on what he is presenting, but it's a reflection on what we are actually facing in the everyday life. All of you are teachers. Most of you are teachers. And I'm representing a university. You can imagine the kind of burden that I have. What happens is, you go to the Higher Education Council, you sit with the minister, and then people are talking about multidisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity, all these things, and then you come back to your Raichur University or Dharwad, Karnataka University, and then you see the boys and the girls, and then feel they don't even understand what is globalization. Forget about other things. That's too big. Now I am supposed to sell them these things. How do I do this? What I thought was, let me just start with a quotation and try to understand what actually failed us and how are we going to improve upon it if there is a possibility to improve. Finding oil is multidisciplinary. Ak Batista said this. He is a failed entrepreneur from Brazil. But he also said, you need a lot of people, because finding oil is so multidisciplinary that you need statisticians, you need engineers, you need experts in oil, you need marketing managers, you need geologists. Why am I quoting him? Simply because it's not easy to talk about these kinds of activities in a classroom where there are 100 students, where students have come from some rural areas, and then we are trying to dump upon them these big jargons. So we need to sort of try to understand what is exactly the problem that we have and how are we going to give solution to it. No wonder 21st century demands multidisciplinary education. We need it because everyone in the world around are already having it. As he rightly pointed out, 1959, 60, everything started off. But then the question is, has it, the earlier, unidisciplinary teaching, has this given any solution to the problems of the state, society, or development? We did not find any solution through education to resolve the problems that we had in the state or society or the kind of development that we are talking. Did it help the people who tried to enroll themselves in education? I myself, I'll just speak about my own experience. When I came out of the straitjacket context, I found myself to be having very limited opportunities. And then, of course, employability was a big question. And there was no scope for me to unfurl my talents. Absolutely. What happened to the people who were in science? They published for promotions. They published for personal satisfaction. But it did not benefit social progress or industrial development. Ultimately, we did not find any relationship between learning or the job requirements or even the employability. So what were the problems? I just listed a few. Monotonous learning. You know, Shivram Karanth once beautifully said this. I often quote this. I hope everybody understands Kannada. As long as our students, after 5 o'clock bell, don't run screaming, our education system is still very bad. So what happens is, when the bell rings at 5 o'clock, the children run out of the school as if they are liberated. Now, as long as they do that, your classroom is not interesting. Please understand. And that's the kind of situation we are in today. Lack of excitement. Get into the classroom, do you have any excitement? The same teacher comes. And these days I am seeing teachers dressing up in such bad shape and sizes and wearing Hawaii slippers and coming into the classroom. They don't even look interesting. I'm sorry to say this. Lack of curiosity inside the classroom. Exam-centric learning. Lack of scope for creativity, innovation, and experimentation. Aversion to criticism. We don't like criticism. And then we develop only binary or limited perspectives. And socially irrelevant curriculum. Now, if these are things that we are experiencing every other day, I think it was only Yashpal committee which tried to speak about the segregation of or the compartmentalization of the disciplines and said it must be brought together. And after that, I think it's only Kasturi Rangan's committee which is talking about this multidisciplinarity. I stand for correction if I'm wrong. Now, why is this happening? What is the transition needed? Now, while the demands of education is changing, the solution we are offering is getting outdated, like our politics. 19th century politicians, 21st century demands. It doesn't match. Generation of students are changing. Their aspirations are changing, while the curriculum is failing to support them. Most of the problems have originated because of the exclusivity, because of the unscientific ways of curriculum designing, leading to exclusion of the stakeholders and isolation of the teaching community who live in ivory towers. And most of the teaching and learning in the schools and colleges are helping us very little to understand our own environment, our own problems, our own complexities, our own needs of the changing generation. So education itself is alienating itself from their own society, the same people who were once a part of the society. I know my own student who was sitting with me in the afternoon was telling me, "Sir, I don't know why I came to education. Why am I teaching in the university? Because I don't have a permanent job. I can't even get married. I have my own problems." Now, this is a common problem for so many guest faculties which you see all around. Now, under these circumstances, we are talking about multidisciplinarity because technological innovations have come in such a way now, they are also masquerading all our teachers who are actually not trying to read, learn, improve, and change themselves or reinvent themselves inside the classroom. Now, under these conditions, if you look at what is this multidisciplinarity, I would simply put it in a common man's vocabulary, that you combine different disciplines together to educate or undertake research with the belief that every problem has many facets to be understood. Every problem has many facets to be understood. We cannot think in terms of only solving a problem through history or economics or political science or science. Now, this multidisciplinarity to me is also a pedagogy, it is also an approach, and it is also a methodology, which helps me to understand holistically the concepts, theories, and disciplines that provide enough space for developing new understanding or renewed interpretation of what is already existing. Now, this method, as I call tool, the multidisciplinarity, can create knowledge. It can alter it can replicate, it can reuse, apply, expand, and also develop entrepreneurship. There are a number of courses which are already running, bioengineering, biostatistics, and number of courses which he also spoke of. Sociocultural anthropology, political journalism, political psychology, cultural politics. You can hybridize and then produce more and more. And these are creating new horizons of knowledge. Now, how does this benefit? We create these things, but how does it benefit? To me, these innovations actually help us to interlink the subjects and then expand the horizon of the disciplines that we are already studying. When we tried political journalism in our department way back, I learned that in journalism you'll have to teach them the basics of English, punctuation, and then epitomization, so many other things. Because journalism is not only about reporting, but it's also about writing. And if I can teach that student that part, his language will improve, and then he can also get back to improving similarly the language that he uses in political science. Now, he can also think in terms of, flexible learning. Beyond distractions, confusions, and lack of, mystery, he can also think in terms of improving or unfurling his own talents inside the classroom. But what should we do? Sonewald in 1995 wrote that multidisciplinarity gives students the kind of freedom for creativity. And then it also helps them to have collaborative research. Some others wrote that it encourages time management, critical thinking, problem solving, synthesis of ideas, adaptability, and decision making. Jack Leeming in 2017 wrote, emphasis on multidisciplinarity research can also lead to unusual scientific discoveries and innovations. Probably these are very important things that we need to consider, because we talk often about not getting Nobel Prizes and higher scientific discoveries that we are not doing. Why are we not doing? Because we are not experimenting at all. So this may open up these kinds of problems. Now, this solves the problem of many doing the same thing, redundant research, which is often found in languages, social sciences. And it encourages diversity. And it combines the synergy of multidisciplinary education and research, leading to originality and innovations. Now, if you understand that education and research are complex arenas with many styles and values and philosophies, multidisciplinarity studies actually help to find what the system fits one's learning style. Are we without challenges in introducing these things? Maria identifies in 2012 in a book that there is a problem of integrating multiple demands of diverse stakeholders and designing the outcome. OBE, somebody was discussing in the morning. Why are we not able to decide on the OBE? Because we frame the syllabus and then we try to look at the OBE. What you are supposed to do is decide your OBE and then go to framing the syllabi. Probably then you will be in a better position to understand it. And as much as possible, when you write your objectives, use verbs. Let us say, how do we understand? Can also be written as, how do we explain? So such differentiation could be brought in here. And conflicting data and interests may trouble the trajectory of research. And time constraint is another major issue here, because there's a need to bring consensus regarding the goals of research and the purposes and the objectives. And this happens because when three people come together, three of them have different ideas. They don't want to assimilate their ideas. They have differences. And that's a major problem with us. Group learning is not there with us. So I'm sure most of you have experienced when you want to write a paper with 2-3 people together. At the end of the day, you don't write the paper at all, because your views are not accepted by the other person. And imagine if it is interdisciplinary. You try to say something to the science fellow. In my university, when I was a professor, I went to the Department of Statistics and asked them, can you help me analyze correlation through statistical method? Because statistics is employed in a big way. And you know what they told me? They said, it's not a reflection on anybody. They said, sir, we are not trained in that. I said, I'll give you the inputs. Please help me. No, sir, we have enough workload. Now, don't blame the multidisciplinarity or interdisciplinarity. I think whom we have to blame is ourselves. We need to change. Recently, I wrote an article on NEP in Kannada, and I said, the success of NEP depends 50% on teachers, 25% on government, and another 25% on the funding that we receive. Because I don't think every workshop, wherever I go, I have to tell my teachers that the syllabus that we have framed is for the students, not for you. Recently, there was a paper on Constitution, and the UGC said, please change the title as Understanding India. And I changed the title and then framed the syllabus. You know the kind of discussions that came up. People protested because somebody's name was not there. And then they said, sir, this is more about theory, this is more Brahminical, this is more BJP oriented. I said, have you ever thought of trying to teach this inside the classroom? Because it was a little multidisciplinary angle. No, they were not interested. And they said, how do we teach this to the students? Because when I was a student, I did not study this. I never knew that I had to frame a syllabus according to the teacher's education. Now the whole thing had to be changed. So in conclusion, I would say, given the fact that India is vertically and horizontally divided, it is a fact that there are critics of all new things to come. Some of these are acceptable given the changes that are expected, not only new, but difficult to digest. The comfort zones in which we are the culprits. We need to look towards better methodology. While wonders can be done, we should also think in terms of changing our attitude towards what is changing in our society. Let me conclude by saying, disciplines exist, but they come alive when you connect them in the right way, at the right time, to give it the right meaning. So the responsibility of what is needed to be brought about to change, which my friend so beautifully explained when he was talking about analyzing the fat or the science or anything, people have already done. From 50s to 60s to 70s, people have changed world over. But the problem is we ourselves. Unless we try to change and learn and unlearn the old habits, this multidisciplinarity which has to succeed will not succeed, It will definitely remain as an alien discipline for all of us. So my only request to all of you is, please believe in the change and please change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.